There. All right. How's it going, guys? Today, I am going to be bringing you a review slash overview of these two knives here. As you can see, they are quite similar to each other. They are this is the BS1 FTS, little guy here, and then this is the BS2 FTS. These are from the company BPS. I've done a few reviews from these guys lately. Uh, they're both 1066 high carbon with walnut handles and a Scandi grind that is so nice. This company, they do what is quite obvious. Let me see if I can get it on the camera here. Focus. They do very nice hand finishes on their blades. Oh my goodness, focus you back. There you go. That's a bit better. As you can see, they do not cheap out on their polish from you almost being able to see me in the reflection. Hey, little dude, how's it going? Yes, and I'll try and get, I don't know how close I could focus on the blade there, but if you can see right at the bottom where you see my beard in the reflection, you can kind of see right at the knife edge where they have a slight uh, convex to the Scandi edge. So I guess you call that a Scandivex. I call it sloppy sharpening when I do it, but it turns out to be a very nice geometry for these blades, especially considering this 1066, a little less carbon than your 1075 or your 1095. So it's going to be a little tougher, a little more flexible. So edge geometry is pretty important with these. I'm guessing that's why they do the Scandivex, because it either because it's a small company, maybe they just have a good machinist who works there, but I just can't seem to understand how they can get such nice edges on knives that cost under 50 Canadian dollars. Like this one was 43 Canadian dollars. It was on sale last week for $15 off, so it came to just under $30 Canadian, which and the tax was included on that, which is just insane. Like obviously there are few little things on here that some people would call unfinished. I like to call these work blades, so they don't need to have a crazy finish to them. They price them that way. They put the money where it deserves to be, which is on the edge, uh, giving you a nice solid blade. They harden these up to, it says 59 to 61 Rockwell. I have no way to verify that, but judging by how well they keep their edge, I can definitely see that being an accurate statement. I have two of the BS2 FTSs, and as you can see on these, I have two different style handles. These are both ordered as the same knife, but I'm guessing because this is a budget company, they probably get whatever wood they could find that's within their budget and use it. Because they said on one of their ads it says walnut and one says ash, so maybe they go between walnut and ash. This is the walnut, and I really really like this handle on here. I'm gonna try and get some of the wood grain details, but I don't know. It kind of reminds me of a halfway between birch and curly birch. Uh, but this one, I definitely put some finishing work into. I don't know if you could see the difference in the handle scales. I took these edges and sanded them down, the corners. I basically just took everything down a little bit, made it a little rounder, because the beauty on these knives can really be brought out if you spend a little bit of time on them. Uh, from what I've seen, this is a kephart style knife. There's lots of different companies that make them. Like Ontario makes an old hickory style kephart. Condor makes a kephart style. Joker, which I've been looking at the Nordica which is very, very similar to this blade shape. I think the blade is just a little taller. Bark River makes a kephart. Becker makes a kephart. I think it's the BK662 maybe. But yeah, it's a very, very common style of blade. So if you like this style of blade and you don't want to break the bank, I can highly recommend this one. It comes in two sizes: the BS1FTS. It doesn't have a lanyard hole. I would call this an introductory blade, or somebody with very, very small hands, because I have an extra large hand, and as you can see, if I'm if I squeeze it fully, it disappears into my hand. It's not uncomfortable. I definitely carry this knife. It's the only one I have actually used enough to have uh, to actually sharpen it back up on a stone. Usually I strop these because of the slight convex. It makes them really easy to strop back to shape. I also took the scales off and sanded them down, put a stain on them, and then put uh, a clear coat on the stain. And I wasn't crazy about the clear coat. I guess I used a shitty one because I was trying to form a kydex sheath around it, and I got the handles really hot while I was forming it, and it melted the clear coat a little bit. So I'm guessing I got a bad kind for that. Uh, Anyways, I sanded it down. It looks a bit better, but I don't recommend clear coating these handles. It makes it a little slippery, but clear coat the metal underneath the handles if you can, especially if you like to water sharpen, because when I first sharpened this, water got in behind the blade there, and when I took off the handles to do some modification, there was some pretty decent rust all up inside the blade, which definitely can be avoided if you clear coat the metal on the inside. It'll stop it from patining, but it'll wear off pretty quickly too if you accidentally get some on the blade itself, so it's not a huge deal. All right, length on these. Oh, let me focus that back. The small one has a total length of 20 centimeters, or just under 8 inches. Blade length from choil. Another thing about these knives, they actually add choils to them. More is not so kind. 3¼ inches or 9.5 centimeters. Blade length and handle just over 4 inches, or what is that, 11 centimeters, something like that, or 10.5 centimeters. Forgive my sloppy measuring, but the handle and blade are almost equal size, so it makes it a pretty good useful blade for the overall size of it. The weight on this smaller one is 79 grams naked, and then with the sheath, 107 grams, which for a fixed blade is a nice light carry. I do believe the blade thickness is 2 millimeters. If you look on the back of this one, this is another thing that happens with BPS, because they're a slightly budget company. Little things like this. This is the only knife that had what looks like some sort of chatter, maybe from the milling machine, whatever was cutting this out. The blade wasn't too sharp. I don't know exactly how they cut these out, if they're punched or whatever, but whatever their machine was cutting that or milling it was not quite working properly, but that doesn't bother me at all. It's an unfinished spine. It's not like every other BPS I've gotten that has had an aggressively sharp spine. This one makes it good, easy for carving. You can do push cuts and don't have to worry about chewing your thumb up. The sheath included is it's a little flimsy as far as BPS goes. Again, this was their cheapest full tang knife, so I'm guessing the price is reflected with the sheath. It's probably my least favorite out of all BPS. I've wet formed this twice to try and get a nice tight fit, and even now, like it'll stay in, but it's definitely not perfect. Uh, don't like this is not going to be an upside down neck carry or anything. I do neck carry this. Just put a paracord lanyard through the belt loop and carry it around my neck that way, and it just disappears into my shirt. Don't even notice it. But the bigger one, this is my bread and butter here. This is such a good style knife. I haven't had too much time on it, but from the little bit I have used, I love this shape of knife. This is the first time I've had a kephart style blade or a blade similar to this shape. It has a nice flat to it and a nice drop point, nice belly at the tip there. Sharpening is perfect. Like this is probably one of the nicest edges I have. Let me grab the paper. Hopefully this goes better than like they definitely don't cheap out. The last time I did this on camera, it didn't work out too well, but this one doesn't have any chewy spots on it. You can do some really nice turns with the blade, as well as yeah, this edge. They have finishing these specific models, you are doing a great job. Uh, no nonsense, no fancy finger guards or finger grooves or anything. The handle's kind of basic, kind of reminds me of a standard like steak knife handle, but that doesn't make it bad. It makes it functional and easy for your hand to understand because we've held knives our whole lives, whether we've used an outdoor knife or not. We've held knives. Pretty much all your kitchen knives are going to have a very similar style handle. So you're gonna know how to hold this properly, and your fingers are just gonna naturally grip it well. This one, when comparing the two, uh, of course, this one's gonna have a much more comfortable handle, especially for my size of hand. If you have a smaller hand size, you might actually find this one a little more comfortable. My son, he's 6 going on 7, and his hand fits nicely on this. If I want to give him something to try and teach him how to use a knife properly, this is probably the one I'm going to give him. And it doesn't look aggressive or anything. It has that traditional style. So hopefully, uh, if we ever do, if I ever do let him carry it or use it in a public place, it's not going to scare people as much. But I just love the way they have two of these style knives, and this one was $30. This one was $43 retail, so that's 75 bucks for two knives. Like that's less than the Condor Kephart cost for one of them. So as far as price, this company is unbeatable, and it's not one of those they charge a low price, you're getting low quality materials. No, this is not high end materials, but they certainly know how to make the best of the materials they're using or have had experience with. Because I assume, I've never built a knife from scratch, but I assume learning how to work with different steels is like learning how to drive a specific road. The more you drive it, the more familiar you'll get with the turns. But and then jumping onto a new steel, you're gonna have to relearn that. So I'm guessing they've been using 1066 for a long time. It's just something they know how to use. So they use what they know, and I'm not gonna argue with the results they're getting. Let's quickly get a weight and size on the BS2 FTS. This one is actually not that much heavier. Uh, and again, like the other BPS knives, there is absolutely no weight savings under the handle. So if you're a little nifty with that, you could easily take these scales off and do some weight savings hole or speed holes or whatever you want to call them to make this knife lighter or more balanced to your liking if you find if you don't like where the balance is, if I could find right now. So yeah, it's about 2/3 up the way of the knife. So it's not the most balanced knife. Uh, you could easily get that better balance taking a little more. Well, maybe I'm not sure how you balance that out, but I don't personally don't find the weight to be a problem. 130 grams. What was it? Bare blade, focus camera, and then with the sheath 200 grams. So it's about twice the weight total. 205, 204, about twice the weight for the bigger size one. Oh, and yeah, the sheath on these. So BPS, uh, their sheaths vary. I find from knife to knife, just like yeah, these two same knife. Just like the handles are slightly different, the sheaths are slightly different. This is a little darker. This one is printing. I don't know if that's from the actual leather or they wet form that print in there from the company that sells them the leather. But either or, what type of leather you get, you're gonna get a nice thick wall of it there. Has no liners or anything, so of course you can cut the leather up. But I've slid these knives in and out of the sheath a lot, and I have yet to have any problems. Just be conscious of what you're doing when you're sliding your knife into your sheath, and you shouldn't cut anything like that. It's got a nice thick bolster there down there. So as far as these sheaths, for what, like, I before I found these knives, I was looking at sheaths, leather sheaths for my Moras, uh, just to try something different, and I was so, like, I just couldn't believe how expensive the sheaths were, like double the price of what I paid for the knife. So when I found these guys and saw the sheaths they were they were selling with the knives, it almost makes sense. Like, if you need a sheath, buy one of these knives, take the sheath out, and sell the knife separately. Somebody can make their own sheath for it or buy their own sheath, and you'll make most of your money back. Because even on Amazon right now, like, they sell, Jesus, focus, you fuck. They sell these sheaths, I think, for $24, and then the knife is with the sheath is $43. So it's more than half the cost of the knife is the sheath in this. So and then they have other ones which are even more expensive. I think they have one with a fire steel that's $50, and then if you get the knife in the same sheath, it's $58. So an extra $4 on top of the sheath to get the knife included. So I don't know how they're breaking down their prices or how Amazon is pricing those. It could be because of limited stock on the sheaths or something. But if you need a sheath for a knife, buy one of these knives and just sell the knife without the sheath and keep the sheath. You'll make most of your money back. You end up getting a really nice sheath for $5 or something. So yeah, the BS1 and BS2 FTS, I give them both real big thumbs up. Out of these two, I'd probably take this one just because my hands are bigger. But again, I carry this one a lot too. It's small, easy to carry, not very intimidating, and a really functional knife. I'm not into pocket knives. They feel like toys to me, and the only ones that don't feel like toys to me are like the very expensive Benchmades or the very expensive cold steel ones. They kind of feel a little more solid. But yeah, you're spending $200 a a pocket knife, and I just like even Benchmade's fixed blades and cold steel fixed blades. The cold steel's not too bad, but Benchmade like $200 for a knife. I mean, they're nice, but I just with the how good some of these lower end knives are on the market. For a person like me, who's a very utilitarian person, I don't like having very fancy things that I'm scared to use because they're so expensive. And knives are definitely a knife that is over $150 falls into that category for me. If I have two knives here, if I had this and a Benchmade Hunt Saddle Mountain Skinner, uh, I would take this one any day just because I'm scared to lose the Saddle Mountain Skinner. I'm scared to beat it up. I'm scared to ding it. And having a tool that you're afraid to use because of the price, and I'm not saying $200 is a lot for a tool. It's just for like $40 you can get 95% of that tool's awesomeness and not be too scared to use it. If you're a knife collector who just displays their knives, I guess those, like, all you're planning on doing is buying them and then reselling them down the line for a profit, maybe enjoying them a little bit while you have it. But uh, I guess some of those higher end knives make sense. But to me, if you can get a knife that's 95% as good for 1/10 of the price, 1/8 of the price, that's a way more functional tool. And knives, at the end of the day, are tools to be used. Uh, if you're if you're too afraid to use it, too afraid to push it to its limits, then you're never getting the full usefulness out of that tool. So, as far as I'm concerned, the only knives I will ever keep for long periods of time are tool knives. Or like I still, and the nice thing about these BPS knives is, although they're $40, they still feel like 150 a $200 blade. So I can feel like I have a nice quality blade, but not have to spend a ridiculous amount of money and not be afraid to actually use that quality blade. The same as getting a new car. You're always afraid of scratching it. Get a used car because it already has a couple scratches on it, and once it's scratched, it's a lot easier to scratch it again. Don't be afraid to use your tools. Don't buy overpriced knives, especially overpriced folders. Stop supporting that market. If you're a flash guy, if you mind it, it's, as far as I'm concerned, all of those high-end sprint run knives are the equivalent of fancy diamond rings for women. It's a man version of jewelry, and I'm not trying to knock wearing a knife as a fashion statement. If you want to wear a knife as a fashion statement, have at her. I'm all for everybody carrying more knives to get people more used to knives being carried, because after all, it's a tool, it's not a weapon. Like anything, they can be used as weapons, but just because somebody's carrying a knife does not mean they're a danger. And it really makes me sad that I gave a Leatherman to my nephew. uh he's a 13-year-old kid, for 13 or 14-year-old. He's in high school. He lost the Leatherman because he's not allowed to carry it with him to school. So every time he was carrying it, he'd go to school, he'd have to take it out, put it somewhere, or consciously remember to not carry it in school. So he ended up not getting used to carrying it and losing it almost instantly. Uh, it's sad. Like, knives are very useful tools. They're very handy to have for a myriad of reasons, not just for cutting, for prying. You can abuse a knife. That's why I like these slightly cheaper knives, because you can use them to their limits and not really have to worry about losing $200-300. And if you do snap this, which I mean it's a pretty thick blade, then you're not going to be just hurting because that costs you so much and you have to replace it. And we gotta get knives to be more socially acceptable again. I try and carry a belt knife on me every day, even if I don't use it, just for that fact. I think we need to bring them back, guys. Have the Finnish philosophy where when you're 12 years old, your father gives you a puko, and that's your belt knife, and that's meant to keep you alive and keep you safe in situations where you might need it, like making kindling. And then maybe we'll teach kids that it's not the tool that's to be feared; it's the people, and maybe that'll get people looking at people a little more with a little more care. Uh, yeah, I'm not saying everybody should be untrusting, but it's not the tool. So, sorry about that little rant at the end. Back to the knives. BS2 FTS, BS1 FTS, BPS knives. Amazing little belt carry knives. I have yet to find anything from this company that I have disliked. This is probably my least, uh, the one that had the most laziest finish on it, and I still loved it. All it did was make me want to put a little time and effort into it to make it prettier, because I got it for $30, and I definitely don't mind putting a couple hours of my time into a knife for that price. So if you get a chance, they can be ordered off Amazon. I don't know if either of these are in stock right now. These were in stock for the last 2 weeks, but I think they just sold out today. And then this one hasn't been in stock in a little while, but they're always coming back into stock. I think because it's a smaller company based in Ukraine, and they're probably some of the cheapest, best knives you can get on Amazon. They're having trouble keeping up with demand, but don't be afraid to contact the company if they're out of stock. Ask them when they're going to be back in stock, or even order directly off them. It will take a little bit more time. It will take, but you will save a bit more money. You don't always have to buy things off Amazon. This is just an old spoon I had started carving, and my son, as you can see, he's recently turned into a little gnawing machine. He's 6 years old, and I think he's growing his second row of teeth, and he's just his adult teeth, and he's gnawing more than my 2 year old. So yeah, BS1 FTS, BS2 FTS. Buy them, enjoy them. Thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, any questions about the knives, questions about me, questions about life, just let me know. I definitely don't mind branching out and talking about things that aren't necessarily knife specific. Yeah, have a great day, guys. Later.